All right, my name is Frank Hackett. You can call me Hackett. Usually what I go by. Most anything on the internet that is FJ Hackett is me. The only thing that's not, there is a @Hackett on Twitter. It's somebody else. He gets harassed constantly. So whoever that is, I apologize. Quick, a few shout outs here. First to High Hack Society. It's a group of guys I hang out with. You know, it's a great group of people. We break into stuff, we share research, have a good time. Joe McRae, who's completely changed my career, absolutely. And then Marcus Carey, working on these slides. He called me on Twitter and said, hey, you know what, you got to read this book, Presentations End. It's a quick read, you'd be that much better off for it. Guy was definitely right. If you haven't read it, highly recommend it. Next, to Georgia. Thank you very much. She was sponsoring me being up here. She is with Ball Security and is a mobile goddess, as we found out yesterday. And then, of course, Bill Gardner, the Dow professor. He's a great dude. So I think everyone here knows Bill. What you may not have seen with Bill, he has these awesome glamour shots. The interesting thing, if you look right up here, there's a little twinkle in his eye. All right? I've always wondered what that was. So I took it to my CSI buddies. They yelled and hand at it about 10 times. So here's the twinkle. Sorry, Bill. Anyhow, about me. I'm a security consultant. I'm a senior systems engineer. I've worked under Joe with his rookie program for about 2 years now. I got papers with certs. I'm an SATF member. If you need a project to work on, please join the SAT framework. We meet every Wednesday online. And just trying to put together some security awareness training. So one of the biggest reasons why I'm kind of qualified to give this talk, in my opinion, is I work for small business and I work with small business. When I say with, I probably have 200 customers or so in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area that all fall into the small business realm. Approaching small businesses with security is hard. The Hartford did a nice little article here, and I love this quote. Believe they're not at risk, or in fact, they're being targeted. We know they're being targeted, but it's conveying that message to the business owners, the CEOs, the CTOs, that, hey, look, you've got to start thinking about this, and many of them just don't. So when I go to talk to them, about, hey, what do you guys do for security? I get these usual things back. First being, no one wants my data. Has any hacker ever said, you know what, I see it, I just don't want it? Anyone in this room ever been on a pen test and said, I don't want that data, I'll leave it be?
We bought stop text on our week, so.
All right, so there is one exception. Second thing I hear all the time, they don't have anything worth stealing. Well, yeah, you've got information, I can guarantee you, someone out there wants it except maybe that robots.txt file. The last thing I hear, and this drives me crazy the most, we don't have time to worry about it. Well, if you don't have time to worry about it, I can promise you someone else is taking care of that problem for you. You're getting a free pen test from China, from Iran, from somewhere. Someone's looking at your network, looking at your data. There's a great book that I feel kind of illustrates this. If you haven't read this book, you definitely should. Kingpin. Max, pretty much, when he started, he was stealing credit cards from a small pizza place. He wasn't going after the Fortune 50s, Fortune 500s. He was going after small business. Likewise, we have Fox News here ran an article. I hate this quote, but it's almost a necessary evil at this point. That's where we have that mentality of expect breach. I wish we didn't have to expect breach. I wish we could reach out to some of these small companies going, hey, you've got a Windows XP box that's still running Service Pack 2. We got an issue. It's an easily fixable issue, but that's a problem. And until we start approaching these customers and start moving away from stuff, they're going to have to expect breach, which in my opinion is miserable. So if we look at this in my opinion is a mature security program. So you got your policies, your user training, patch management, log management, AIDE, security appliances, and metrics. This is a lot. This is a lot for any size business to take care of. For small business, it blows their mind a little bit more because it's, oh my God, I have to do all this. I can hardly keep up with IT. How am I going to worry about security now? This right here, in my opinion, matters the most. If you can have every blinky box on your network that you want, unless your users know, hey, that fax.zip that has an exe in it is probably malicious and I shouldn't try to open it, it's not going to matter. So we take that model, we start breaking it down for small business. So very top, policies and procedures. Anything we do, we have to have in writing. We have to have a reason for it. User awareness training. Anything's better than nothing. Got to have something. Patch management. Duh. If you're not patching, you're already going to lose this game. Log management. I think log management is honestly the hardest thing for any size business. Next to impossible for small business, but there is a few things we can do. Antivirus and HIDs. We're not really going to hit HIDs on the small business side, but we're definitely going to have AV. You know, you can run free AV at this point with Microsoft. Security appliances, bare minimum, have a security appliance. Have a real firewall. Don't have Linksys, don't have a Netgear or D-Link. You know, if you would use it at your house, it's not meant for your business, bottom line. And lastly, metrics on the small business side, it's not going to happen. A couple things we can try to do, but when you're trying to see, well, I've done A, B, and C, how is that going to affect my business now? It's really hard to measure that with small business. What is a small business? You guys can read this if you want. I don't agree with any of this. This is from Wikipedia. You know, if you've got 500 employees, in my mind, you're not a small business anymore. Apparently, you're still considered a small business, but that's not who I'm trying to, not who I've geared this talk to, not who I want to speak to. This is what I consider small business. You know, 10 to 50 employees. The employees wear many hats. You may have your receptionist that also does accounting. You know, they trade off, they switch just like that. Revenue is usually 1 to 5 million, somewhere in that ballpark. They do not have a full-time IT staff, and they do not have a full-time security staff. So then these challenges become even more diverse in how they have to be approached for small business. Some of the types of businesses we're talking about that we all interact with on a daily basis. You know, medical, lawyers, financial, your different boutique shops. We've got a florist in Vienna that is cutthroat. And there's many others. As I've come to find out, some law enforcement falls into this as well. Which I didn't know that. It kind of blows my mind a little bit, but it's out there. And again, these are all, I would say in that list, all of us interact with those type of businesses on a daily basis. They make a significant impact on our lives. And like, I know my medical office, I know they're a small business, but I know they've got data about me that I don't want to get out there. So this is a typical network layout for a small business. And not for nothing, given the sheer size, it's not that different from a big corporation. I mean, we've got the internet, we've got a router, firewall, switch, server, PCs, wireless, and then a wireless laptop. That's how a business network looks these days. You may have 50 VLANs if your IT guy hates his life. But, I mean, typically, that's what you're going to see. In small business, you're going to see a flat, you know, /24. So let's start breaking down what we can do for those different models of that triangle. So policies and procedures. There are templates out there, and I believe Bill was speaking about this a little bit more in depth. There's places you can find pre-written templates where you can copy and replace, you know, company name to your name. Hey, now you've got your policy. Look at SANS, California government of all places. You know, the governor wants you to have a security program, believe it or not. And always go to Google. You know, you can follow that bit.ly. It's going to take you to a let me Google that for you, show you how to use Google to find this stuff. So policy and procedures again. What should we have? I think at a bare minimum, these are the policies that should be in place for any kind of business. Your AUP, you know, what can we do on the network, what can't we do on the network? You know, if you haven't said, hey, you can't check, I don't know, college football scores, you can't go to ESPN, you can't fire a guy for that necessarily. You've got to have it in writing. Or have a computer security policy in place where you're defining, you know, your password strength, you know, requires complexity, expires every 90 days, that type of thing. If you need compliance, you know, HIPAA, ISO, whatever we're up against, you've got to have that in writing as well. Lastly, data classification. This does not happen with small business and it drives me up the wall. Typically, this is what I see, like, you know, when I get with small business with data classification. Owner can see everything, no one can see the owner's stuff. So what happens? The owner gets in a car accident, the owner gets sick, now no one's getting paid, now bills aren't getting paid. That's a problem, that's an issue. You know, this is my suggestion for doing stuff the right way for data classification. Public, corporate, sensitive, private. You know, lay it out in groups, who has access to what. Your intern, who's there for a summer, probably does not need access to level 3 sensitive, definitely doesn't need access to 4 in the private. He or she may only need, you know, level 1, that public available information. So we look at some different resources for user training. You know, InfraGuard, hey, this is a free class if you've got less than 25 employees. You can sign up, you can do it, you can benefit from it. Again, the Security Awareness Training Framework is up there as well. It's a great resource if you're looking to build your own program. And again, Google. Google has the answer for everything out there. You know, if you can use it, you'd be that much better off. And lastly, last slide for user awareness training, some topics that you've got to hit, especially on the small business side, because this is what they're up against. They're not worried, you know, so much about, you know, the maintenance man comes in and plugs something in. It's, you know, they get phished. They get social engineered with phone calls. The big thing that I found is just teaching them about passwords. You know, hey, using password for a password is bad. This is why it's bad. You know, using password 123, that's a little bit better. Explain to them, you know, give them management solutions. You know, show them LastPass, show them KeePass. Explain the problem with, you know, reusing passwords or using weak passwords. You know, let them see what's out there and just educate them about it, and it will make a difference. The other thing too, once you teach them about their passwords, when you take a small business who's, I had one guy who told me, I've used the same password since 1983, and it's never been broken. Well, you're wrong, number one. Number two, I think that's kind of dumb. And number three, we have a policy now that says you can't do this. So now your password's going to change every 90 days, regardless of whether you've used the same one since 83 or not. Patch management. Here's the cool thing about small business. We're not really running custom applications. We don't have developers working in-house, making our accounting software or our vendor-specific program work for us. So we can pretty much just throw patches blindly at the servers, at the workstations, and be done with it. You know, it's really not an issue. To do everything on kind of on the cheap side for small business, you have Windows automatic updates. But if it's not configured, you don't leave that computer on at night, it's not going to run. WSUS, I personally do not like WSUS. I think it's a bear to manage. It's decently easy to set up, and then the management, keep it going, I think sucks. Yes, Bill?
I think you're going to address my problem in the next section about third party.
Yes.
Basically, you do patch management, and then you what's the word I'm looking for? You double check your patch management.
Well,
system.
your patch management, in my opinion, you need to have two sections. You got to have OS patch management, and you got to have third party. And Bill said we'll come to third party next.
Well, even sus, if it's misconfigured, you assume that it's working.
It's
On
not.
most of the networks I've been on, it's not working.
Yeah, exactly.
It may work for some GPOs, it may not work for other GPOs because somebody misconfigured it.
Well, that's, yeah, I mean, it's not hard. I don't think it's hard to set up. I think it's hard to manage and hard to keep going. And for whatever reason, I've seen the database for WSUS just break on more occasions than I care to mention. The other thing to consider is your third-party management. Quick recommendation for that is use, you have your IT vendor come in and they most likely have some kind of RMM solution. I'm just suggesting LabTech. It's something that I've used that works extremely well.
Have you seen, I mean, I deal with a medical office in Fort Wayne that they have for all of their workstations, their IT director has asked them to install Secunia just to solve a lot of this problem. You tried using Secunia or a solution like that?
Not really. LabTech, which I have used, takes care of OS and takes care of third party. It does everything all at once, and it's on the cost scale of it. If you're working through an MSP provider, it's not that expensive. Yes, sir.
I would also say there are many different solutions to do third-party patching.
Yeah, well, there's a ton of
OS
solutions to do
level.
patching in general. And this is just real quick and dirty. You know, again,
Right.
this is all aimed at the small business side of
Right.
things. So,
And your security vendor should be able to find something sized for your organization.
well, your security vendor or your IT vendor, because
Well, your security, well, we won't get into that discussion, but
Yeah.
your IT vendor.
but
should
an
be able to
IT
size
vendor
something.
should be able to provide your small business with a patch management program. All right, so we have third party as well. So again, you have MSP RMM software. Great tool that maybe not everyone here knows about is Nine. Yeah, Nine I think is one of the greatest things out there. If I'm setting up a new machine and I've got to install, they just took Flash off of it, which kind of breaks my heart.
No, that's good.
Well, different sides of the argument. Yeah. But yeah, you can install all of that third-party stuff that you pretty much need these days for a computer to run. Real quick and dirty, you know, you select what you want on the website, and boom, 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 you get your installer, let it run, you're done. The other cool thing you can do with Nine, small businesses are always going to have a local admin account on all their workstations. You know, we don't have the time, we don't have the resources to eliminate that. And usually your users are going to be configured with the local administrator anyhow. You can take that Nine installer, set it as a scheduled task to run weekly. It's going to update all that third-party software for you automatically. They also now offer Pro version, which the cheapest they have is $20 a month. It's good for 100 machines. So you can push the patches out through your network. You can see what's patched, what's not. But again, that's only third-party, not doing OS. Last thing you can do is trust your users to update regularly. Has that ever worked for anybody?
No.
Never going to work. I've been told that one. You know, Sally just updates when she needs to. Sally's pwned. She just doesn't know. This is Nine if you've never seen it. And you can see skipped, install version, it's never skipped, up to date. So this will install or update the software as it's out. I absolutely love this website. Log management. Again, this is hard regardless of your business size, but especially for small business. I think this is not impossible, but it's next to impossible. Especially to do it kind of on a budget. Small business is always on a budget. So we have our good friends at Alien Vault with Awesome. Has anyone ever configured Awesome?
I'm configured as awesome.
Did you like it?
No.
Did it suck?
Yes.
Yeah.
It does suck. You have to fix it.
You have to fix everything, right? It's not fun. Offset, which is also included in Awesome, but I like Offset kind of on its own. Yeah. Has anyone set up Offset before? Is it easy or hard?
It's very easy.
Very customized.
Super easy.
Yeah. Click, 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 you're done. It's pushed out, you're good to
You
go.
design custom rules to deal with particular issues, you know. You're worried about the owner, he doesn't want to be blocked, fine, you know, for whatever business reasons.
Yeah,
You make
I-
exceptions for his IP or his account, and you're
Yeah.
done with it.
I like OSSEC a lot better. Lastly, you know, you may have an RMM solution that you can employ. I know what I'll push out with LabTech, that'll pull log files as well. We have a couple of customers where we really need their logs in real time to see if something's happened. It will suck down the bandwidth, but it's feasible. Good thing to keep in mind with log management, that needs to be more of a longer term goal. It's not going to happen at first. That's a big mountain to climb, you know. But then again, something's always better than nothing. So if you look at the average buffer on a firewall, let's think of a SonicWall or a WatchGuard, that's what you're going to see in-house. It's next to nothing, right? You know, you may have 30 minutes, if that, on a good day. You know, something's better than nothing though. So configure those firewall logs, dump down via SMTP to send them to their own account, let them collect. So if you do have to go back through it, that's going to be tedious and that's going to be a headache, but at least you have it. All right, so antivirus and HIDs. In my opinion, if you have a business, you need to invest in a managed antivirus solution. I put 3 up there. There's only one that I ever use, and that's Semantic Endpoint. I think Trent's pretty miserable, and McAfee, I think is, I don't know, like throwing water on your computer. sorry, McAfee. Security Essentials. I mean, on the pen testing side, I gotta get past Security Essentials, I know I'm in for a bad day, because it's a pain. You know, there's things that can go around it, but it's a pain. You pretty much have to choke that process instead of bypassing it. It's free, but it's unmanaged. Then if you're gonna go the free route, definitely throw in Malwarebytes too, because it's free, and it does a pretty good job. The other thing to remember too, of a small business, on the big, the Fortune 500 corporate side, if we get a machine that's infected, we don't clean it. We just wipe it, image it, push it back out, right? Well, small business, we don't have that advantage. We may have an image, most likely not. Typically, you've got different hardware at every workstation. So we're going to clean it, and the last resort's going to be, well, we've got to format this and wipe it and reinstall. So that's one of the biggest differences, in my opinion. Talking about hardware, and I kind of touched on this already. You've got to have a real firewall. If it's something that you would use at your house, it should not be in your business. Well, we can do the port forwarding on that link system to let traffic through. Yeah, but you can't do anything else. It's a piece of garbage. Rip it out. If it costs $50, get it the hell out of your network. It doesn't belong there. And security appliances, they do a lot. They act as a router, as a firewall. Gateway antivirus, your IDS and IPS can all be built in there. An all-in-one solution, it may not be the best, but look, we're on a small business, we're working on a budget. So we're going to spend $400 or $500 on a firewall, and we're going to get these services as an added benefit. Some suggestions on the hardware side, SonicWall, WatchGuard, Meraki. Meraki's kind of new. Cisco just bought them probably 6 months ago. If you've never seen Meraki, check them out. Their devices are really cool. If you sit in a webinar, they'll send you a free access point, which I think is it's not bad. I have one at my house now. But yeah, they're easy to manage and they're cost effective. You start pushing Cisco solutions out to small business, by the time you get all the licensing for all the features that you need and want, now your price point's way up here. So we've defeated the purpose of trying to help the small business out. Where we throw, and I know when the owner of my company sees this, he's going to laugh because I have SonicWall up there. I don't like SonicWall. But for small business, they're great. So then the metric side. And again, I don't think this is ever really going to happen effectively for a small business. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. But short of getting some kind of patch reports or any kind of reports from your MSP, your IT vendor, we're getting your DubSUS reports going, hey, well, yeah, these machines are still pending this patch, and yada, yada, yada. You're not going to get a whole lot of feedback. A small business is not going to get a penetration test on. I've seen where that's been sold before. It actually happened to one of my customers on the IT side of things. They were given a pen test as a donation of service. And I talked to the security company, I said, awesome, you beat up a little entity. You're a bully, nothing else. You haven't helped them, all you've done is just instill this fear into them. But again, if you have any suggestions for metrics, or realistic metrics on the small business side, please let me know, because I would love to find a good solution for that, because I don't have one. So now if we're looking at building a security program, stuff we're going to do, for the small business, there's going to be steps we got to take. If we try to go from at day 0, and we go, all right, we're going to do all this across the board, we'll be done in 5 days. Not realistic, it's not going to happen. You got to take an audit. You got to identify your problems. You got to find that low-hanging fruit before anything else. Because you may have you know, an XP box that's still running Service Pack 2, hey, patch it, hey, that box is pretty much now taken care of. You know, make a roadmap for your changes and set a realistic timeline, because if you're not, you're only going to frustrate yourself and you're going to frustrate that business owner, bottom line. Get the policies and procedures in place before you start making changes. So when we come in and security goes, hey, you know, the wireless doesn't have access to the server any longer. And when, you know, the secretary is going, well, why not? I have to have this to do my job. And we say, look, we have a policy. It's not there. It's not going to be. We need to find you another solution to access that data. You know, once you get your policies done, implement your action plan, get moving, get going, stay current. Your security program, it's a living and breathing thing. I have one customer who, and it's actually been really, really cool. They're about 15, 20 employees strong. They're now processing PII for a credit bureau. And when this process started, we went in and talked to them. We said, well, we've got to change X, Y, and Z right off the bat. Let's find out what this company's standards are that you're going to be working with. We've got to meet them. And I was asking the customer the other day, I said, hey, look, I'm giving this talk. I would love to know what your kind of opinion is of your business now, what improvements you've seen at your business since we started this whole process with you guys. And he said, well, he said, you know, we've got increased revenue now because now we can touch data that other companies can't touch. Other companies that are bigger than us can't touch. So they've got their own little niche now on how they can process things, which is cool. He said, and then it's I sleep better at night because now I know we've got stuff set up. We've got safeguards in place. We've got our data classified. I feel better about our business. I feel like it's being done better. You know, obviously what we're trying to do here is keep the bad guys out. We want to protect that data, protect the business, get rid of that low-hanging fruit. Small businesses have a ton of low-hanging fruit. You know, if you're looking at, you know, levels of hacker skill, you know, 1 through 4, 1 being a little skid, 4 being a state-sponsored hacker, we're never going to keep out a state-sponsored hacker out of a small business. If they want in, they're going to get in, right? If we can keep the skiddies out, we can keep the admin hackers out. You know, if we can eliminate levels 1 and 2 of that, we've done a pretty good job. And for the most part, we may have eliminated most of the threats they're going to come across because they're a small business. They're probably not going to be targeted by China, by a state-sponsored hacker. You know, I would like to say, too, that is actually my friend's dog. That is Penelope. She is the sweetest thing ever, and that picture just worked out great. Some of the advantages small businesses have over big businesses. That web server should be off-site. Your website has no business being on your corporate network. If it is on your corporate network, it should not be joined to the domain. I see that all the time. The first thing we do is say, hey, put that thing off-site. You need hosting. You don't need a web server. You know, typically, you're not going online and buying stuff from a small business. If anything, you're doing that through one of their vendors. So that web server for them should be off-site. Patches don't need to be tested. We're not going to break anything. We're just going to patch and we're going to move forward. Only thing I've really ever seen broken from patches is BlackBerry. And BlackBerry's dying for small business too because it's a cost and it's something we don't need any longer. It's a small environment. It's a small number of employees. You know, we don't have a high internal threat. If you know, if you ever want to see how much a small business owner would trust somebody, cheat them out of $20 and see if they ever speak to you again. You know, I guarantee they won't. You can trust people better, and even though we try to work towards a zero trust model, it's not feasible for small business. So kind of moving on here, advice to small business, talk to your vendors and ask them about their security programs. You know, if you're bringing your MSP in and they're going, hey, look, yeah, we're gonna replace these workstations for you, we're gonna upgrade your server, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Ask them what they do for their security, because they're gonna have a VPN tied, you know, from your office back to their office so they can manage your server and do all this stuff for you. Well, if they're sitting wide open, you've now got another ingress point into your network. That's another attack vector. You know, that's probably not the right vendor for you at that point. And then, I mean, make security a requirement. Don't make it an afterthought. You know, it's great. There is a major corporation right now, and I'm not going to say who, but they have a product out that they sunk hundreds of $millions in. And now they're panicking because they realize there's no security built into this product. So now it's an afterthought. It's gonna cost them a ton of money to get it fixed. You know, we can avoid the same type of thing if we just make the security a requirement, you know, make it a forethought, not an afterthought. Kind of wrapping up here, I have to say, I actually love this quote by Mr. President Obama: "Small business is the heart of our American economy." How true is that? You know, every day we interact with small business, we give them information, we get a service from them, we get a good from them. You know, they take care of us. They're our lawyers or our doctors. You know, they may be our law enforcement officers. You know, there's people that we need to work with. And I think on the security side, we need to work with them more than what we currently do, because we just kind of leave them flapping in the wind. You know, it comes down, well, they're only 20 employees. They can't pay me enough, I don't care. Well, you know, they've got the money, they're spending it. You got to show them the need, you got to work with them. So if you want to hit me up, there's our contact information. If you want to see the slides, they'll be up there in probably 20 minutes or so, and email address. So, questions, comments? Yes, sir.
On that internal wireless, we touched on this yesterday, and Bill gave me some advice. I got people walking around laptops that just want to not be plugged in, but I also got tons of people coming in and out the door that as soon as they sit down, they want Wi-Fi.
Right.
So segregating that from the network, separate appliances, or?
Well, it's going to come down to your network layout, in my opinion. Or if you get a Meraki access point, you can throw, I think, 15 different networks off the Meraki access point. You can have one be set up as a guest network, you know, where it's internet only, while the other, you know, your corporate network, that has access to your information. Yes, sir.
I'm still a big proponent of air gap. Anything that's software and has vulnerability, you can hop VLANs, you can do all kinds of nasty things with VLANs. So I say go out, buy yourself a nice DSL connection. When you know, my old bosses walk into your environment for a deposition and want wireless, you put them on that network.
If it's for guest access.
Yeah,
But
for guest
but if
access.
it's for guest
Yeah,
access.
he needs corporate access as well.
Well, in corporate access, what you can do is have them VPN back into your network, which is a hassle.
It's a hassle.
But it's
Well,
still air gap.
as soon as I get a small business to do that, I will agree with you.
Oh, I've got people to do it before.
I've tried, I've fought that
Not
argument.
scared them enough.
Yeah, I've tried. I mean, I walked into one place, the Wi-Fi password was sitting, you know, on the conference room wall on the whiteboard.
The other thing you can do is segment your wireless APs behind separate firewalls.
Yeah.
So use like a PFSense firewall box that you're segmenting that wireless.
Well, even with the WatchGuard or the Sonic wall, use a separate interface, and you know, just make it so they can't cross over anything.
Okay.
So
I
there's
still
definitely-
think a $75 DSL connection is cheaper than any solutions, and I'm always about simplicity.
Depends on how many users you have too.
Well, in his case, I know the size of his environment, so a DSL connection would be fine. It did fine in our Charleston office at my old job.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's going to depend on what your need is, what the business's need is. I mean, bottom line.
like Bill said, I'm in an environment with 50 people, but if we have, it's a law firm. We have a deposition, I might have 15 other attorneys walk in the door, and
Right.
everybody wants
They
Wi-Fi
need
right
access
now.
right away. Boom, boom, boom.
What you can do is you can still set it up as encrypted, so that, you know, there's no man-in-the-middle attacks going on. You just give them the weak key and change it. So WU number one's a nice key for one day, and the next day you just change it to something else.
Yeah.
That's a pain in the butt, but we're doing the due diligence to make sure when your guests are on your Wi-Fi that they're not leaking.
That they're
data.
truly a guest. They're not going to keep coming back for more and more. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And as the opposition counsel, I'm gonna be real interested in whether or not you've taken steps to secure my access. Because if you come up with something that I can claim you got by listening to my conversations from the Wi-Fi, I can introduce doubt.
He's got a point.
Right.
So it's in everybody's best interest to keep those things as separate as possible.
Possible.
Understood.
There are a lot of,
No, I'm in a law environment, I understand that, so, yeah.
There are firms in Charleston, when you walk in, you demand to get a wireless connection, they just say, we don't have one. They just never installed one. And that's how they mitigate the issue. They just don't offer one.
They may have one and not know about it.
Well, that's true.
That's, yeah, very well might.
Links us.
Yes, sir.
So in determining how to look at clients for vulnerabilities, basically risk assessments, have you considered looking at what they've got in their bank accounts? Because I think that's a really attractive way of looking at clients. It's one thing to talk to a business owner and say, your bank account can be compromised and the foreign nationals can empty it, will that cause you a problem? And it's another to say,
Well, it's-
on payroll day,
Yep.
when you have $500,000 in your bank account for 24 hours, is it a problem if it suddenly disappears?
It's been brought up. I always recommend that they do their, like especially payroll, do that on a live CD, or a live USB stick that's non-persistent. You know, that way there's no malware there. We're guaranteed this is a clean image. We can do our banking and then move on. I really do try not to monger too much fear with them. You have to a point, because if you tell them, hey, look, this stuff's scary, but you know, pixie dust and fairy winkles, we're going to be fine. We get through it. It doesn't sell. It doesn't work. And I guess having on that extreme, it's been pointed out, going, hey, what if you lost this? What if this was taken from you? What would it cost you to, you know, change your formula or to do whatever?
I want to point out, Hackett, that I applaud your approach to dealing with small businesses. I think a lot of people in the security community have ignored them because they thought, well, they don't have the budget to pay me $10,000 to come and do X for them.
Yeah.
But I'll give you an example with HIPAA. When you're a HIPAA business partner, when you're dealing with an entity, HIPAA requires that those other businesses do be held to some of the same standards.
Well, it's like in my shop, I've got to meet HIPAA because we take care of medical offices.
Your
So-
business associate. is
Right, you're a
gonna
business
do a
associate,
term.
so you have to meet those same standards. And when you can meet those standards, it does increase your revenues. And when you can approach a small business and say, look, you may be struggling in your market, but by doing this, you may improve your revenues, or you may improve your ability to do business with other business entities.
Right.
That's a good thing. The other thing is that if I defend a large corporate network, and I do business with 20 other small businesses, and their networks are exposed and weak, and I can give my employees all the security awareness training I want, don't trust untrusted emails, don't trust untrusted attachments, and they compromise my business associate out there, and that business associate is compromised, and then sends an email, my employees trust it because there's an inherent trust, because that business entity is trusted by me. I just left a big, huge security hole in my network,
Yeah, absolutely.
because I wasn't dealing with my business partners in a responsible manner.
Right.
And I wasn't expecting them to act responsibly.
And you have an excellent point. The problem is right now with business associates, their feet have not been held to the fire. in
Well,
that
yeah,
respect.
if you haven't held it.
Although it seems to be coming down the pipe.
It's
especially with
yeah, it's
high-tech.
definitely
There's
getting
changes
there.
in high-tech. Things like law firms have been put on notice that you represent a hospital or a doctor, and you have a business associate agreement. First of all, you need to have one.
Yeah.
You're going to start getting audited for HIPAA. It's going to be the same thing if you're a hospital or.
Yeah, it's coming down, and I don't really, I like that and I don't. You know, you can be, that business I talked about earlier, where we have really implemented a strong security program with them. I said, look, we can do one of two things. We can make you compliant, or we can make you compliant and secure. I need to know right off the bat, what do you want? And they looked at me and said, well, what do you mean? If we're compliant, we should be secure. I said, should, key word. You know, you should be, you're not going to be. There's still going to be holes and be things people can get around. You know, but we can do a few extra steps, and now you're compliant and you're secure, and you can sleep better at night.
Well, you know, coming out of HackerCon, you and I had a conversation about Dropbox.
Yeah.
And what Brian alluded to earlier about the defense side of it, I like to never convince 30 lawyers that Dropbox was not HIPAA
A lot of
compliant.
clients that still use it. I know pen testers that use Dropbox for
I
client data.
finally asked my boss to acknowledge the fact that I made him aware of it
Yeah.
and that I was not held responsible.
Yeah. And there's some
Well,
inherent risk.
yeah, and
with
that's,
any
well,
cloud
that's where your
service,
policies
period.
and procedures are gonna come back. So if you've got a policy that says, we do not store company data in Dropbox, boom, there you go. So now,
The issue with lawyers really is that making that policy and enforcing it is almost
well,
impossible.
lawyers are completely
It's like doctors, the
different,
same way.
yeah, it's
Different
herding
breed.
cats, I understand that. And for my lawyer customers, I apologize.
What about one of the theories where, you know, if you're not a small business, it's really not gonna have a security team, where using a service like Dropbox is actually more secure than if they would have provided some internet accessible.
Like an
It's a risk
server.
assessment.
It's, yeah, well, yeah, it is a risk assessment, and it's a, a lot of times what I find too is people will call us up and go, hey, I need X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, what are you actually trying to do? You know, find that out. Well, I just need to be able to hit this data when I'm off-site. Okay, how about a VPN? You know, how about we do it that way? You know, even.
VPNs are hard.
But it's so hard.
No, well, when you know, you give them a nice little, I need you to click here, and then you type in your Windows password. Hey, it works. You know, and SSO for small business is huge. The more places you can tie that in, I think the better off you are.
I mean, in one of the things, I mean, I'm pretty sure they do this, not maybe Dropbox, but with like Google, and like you can actually get an agreement with them where you're actually paying them, and there's terms of service.
Yeah.
So
That's a
they,
good point.
so you can do that. So you can still use the free or the easy to use stuff, but the company actually has a deal with.
Yeah, you can
Google
then
and
have
Dropbox.
that added protection, so to say.
Did I hear you just say SSO is a good security tool?
I said for small business, it's good.
I'm
Well-
gonna take a bat and come up there in a minute.
Well, no, here's why.
Prove that SSO is a security fail.
I agree with you. However, for small business, if they've got to remember 10, 12 different passwords, it's not going to happen.
They're gonna have them all written down on Post-it notes.
Yeah,
write them out.
it's not going to happen.
Which is more secure than having them in a crappy SSO server that's not secure that you can get all the keys from.
Well, that leads to another
It's
question.
a risk assessment. It's a give and take.
Yes.
I know you're a
But it's
proponent
not a
of
security tool,
two-factor.
it's a user
Yes.
tool.
How's installing two-factor authentication with your clients gone so far?
Like a breeze.
Really?
The ones I've done it with, typically tying in an SSL VPN. So they're using their Windows creds for the first authentication, and Duo Security. It's free for up to 10 users, and then it's past that, it's $3 a month per user. You can get hardware tokens, or you can use software tokens with your phone, your smartphone. It's stupid simple to use. It works like a dream, in my opinion. And Duo, and I've done some research into Duo. They're a legit company. They're not some fly-by-the-night type deal. You know, we use it at our shop for everything. My guys back at work hate me because they have two-factor everywhere now.
I'm just gonna throw this out because last summer when we had our risk assessment from our insurance, which is ALPS, which mainly deals with the legal community, when the guy come in, he asked to speak to me, and he asked me what my issues were as far as, because like you want to give that scare talk of the internet usage, that might be something that you can look at, whoever their insurance rep is, to make your job a little bit easier and get them to be a little more secure.
Yeah, especially with any business, if you're going on a pen test, you're not going to do a red team assessment right off the bat. You know, you've got to gain that trust with them. Small business is the same way. You know, they've got to trust that you're going to take care of their issues, that you're going to guide them in the right direction. They don't have the budget to try to invest, $20,000, $50,000 and have it fail. You know, they've got to invest that and have it work, and they've got to see their return. You know, you've got to have that trust. You've got to build that trust with your customers. And once it's there, they will spend money. With that same customer, they wanted a DLP solution. I said, sure, I know what you need. I know where we can get it. Yada yada yada. Here's a quote for it. The quote was $25,000. You know, this is a place that has 20 employees, and went, okay. You know, here's your check. Set us up. So they will spend the money when you got that trust with them. So that's it. Thank you very much.